Maybe the most exciting book I have on this list, and no one's probably ever heard of it, but that is another month, another new set of books coming out, and quite a few of them are looking pretty darn good. Hi everyone, my name is Holly, and today I'll be talking about the new books you gotta check out in February 2021. Subscribe to this channel if you want your monthly dose of book releases from hyped to underrated, from fantasy to thriller, but let's take a look at this list I have perfected for you today. So starting on February 2nd, I have Muse. This is a book that sounds unlike anything I've ever read. It's pitched as American Royals meets The Winner's Curse, and the first book to a new duology. It's actually set in an alternate history American monarchy where a girl grapples for control of her own life in the middle of a looming war, and it plays with elements of magical realism and steampunk to create a new perspective during the Chicago World Fair. The book overall has a really great style going for it, from the setting and to the cover that really matches it. The history of what comes next. This is the same author who wrote the Themis Files trilogy. It was pretty hyped in the book community for a really long time, and now we have a new sci-fi trilogy by him, except that this one is more on the historical fiction side. It's set mostly at the end of World War II. The story follows Mia and her mother Sarah, who are sworn to help mankind reach the stars and escape the evil that is coming, whatever the heck that means. It's full of rocket science and space flight, definitely a sci-fi with a lot of personality to it. Winter's Orbit. This is a sci-fi space opera debut that is getting stunning early reviews. With a blush of romance, you're thrown into a scene where a prince is told by his emperor that he is to marry the widow of his cousin who passed away. This then continues the story as they get to know each other and grow closer, while also possibly discovering the secret behind the prince's cousin's death, which could threaten the peace between planets. If you're looking for a sci-fi that's going to have a major romance element binding it all together, this is definitely for you. Moving on to February 9th, we have Voidbreaker. This is the third and final book to the Keepers trilogy, book 1 being Soul Keeper and book 2 being Ravencaller, a series I've talked about a lot on my channel in the last year or so, and I'm going to go ahead and say it is a pretty darn good finale. I'll be reviewing this in a later wrap-up, so look out for that for more of my thoughts. This is following a warrior priest in a world where monsters have resurfaced. It's brutal, funny, and it will definitely pull on your heartstrings. The Moonsteel Crown. This is a new adult fantasy, the first in the Dominion series. This book sounds like it has a lot of diverse influences. Like, just reading the synopsis, it gives me the Lies of Locke Lamora vibes, kind of. It follows a motley crew who are just trying to survive in the city after their emperor has died, which they could care less about. They care more about committing petty violence and stealing a mysterious item. It sounds totally up my alley, one of the most exciting books on this list in my opinion, and I plan to pick it up in February. Fireheart Tiger. This is an incredibly short novel, just over 100 pages, and I wish it was a full novel because a thick book with this beautiful cover on it would have been gold, but I'll take what I can get. This book is pitched as the Goblin Emperor meets Howl's Moving Castle, following a young princess who has been exiled to an enemy kingdom as a child, and her time there has been pretty awful, including a fire that has traumatized her and an affair with another princess. She's now a diplomat and she must protect the kingdom. Though it's short, it sounds like it is freaking packed with a lot of politics, and hopefully gives us time to enjoy this great sounding setup. The Witch's Heart. This is a debut novel that reimagines Norse mythology. Early reviews have mentioned this is kind of in the same realm as Circe. It's told from the perspective of a legendary Norse witch, a figure that's only mentioned in passing as the woman that gave birth to Loki's offspring. But this novel brings light to her actually complex and passionate story. It's supposed to be a really dark epic novel that I myself am so very excited for, and the cover is super cool too. It really just matches the overall aesthetic. The Girl from Shadow Springs. So there's a lot of great sounding ideas in this story all at once. The Revenant meets True Grit, with a magical twist in this debut fantasy about two teens who must brave a frozen wasteland and the foes within it to save their loved ones, and supposedly uncover a Deadly Secret. It really sounds like a great winter read, and with it being winter, it's totally a great time for its release, but I'm going to have to read it first in order to tell you if it's worth your time. I really hope it is because I love books set in snow. The cover is gorgeous. I love all the snowy effects that's happening on the cover. All around an exciting book to look out for, and I'm always looking for a good survival story. I have another really exciting one for you next, and that is The Velocity of the Revolution. This is a new diesel punk fantasy novel that explores a chaotic city on the verge of a revolution. In truth, this sounds like it's just exactly what you would want if you're looking for a good, gritty, semi-realistic novel, or if you are a particular fan of this author's previous series, which they're most known for. Honestly, when it comes to books in this genre, for me, it's characters' actions that are really going to bring this gritty steampunk world to life. I freaking love stuff like this, and my expectations for it are far too high. The Gilded Ones. I actually talked about this book in a previous new releases video when it was set to release in 2020. I forget which month it was, but unfortunately it was pushed back like a ton of books were, because I mean 2020 wasn't exactly the greatest year to publish, but it's finally here, more gorgeous than ever. It's been on NetGalley for like a year, so plenty of great reviews have come out gushing about it. It's a YA fantasy about a group of girls who are forced to join the Emperor's army when it's discovered that forbidden magical blood flows through them. I'm really hoping it can take that plot and make it its own because, the cover is beautiful. Finally, moving on to February 16th, I have The Black Coast for you. This sounds like one of those books that's going to be really addicting to read. It has an incredible sense of momentum, and I'm very much looking forward to it. It's an adult fantasy about dragons, really focusing on two clashing cultures attempting to find a common road to peace. It's one I'd love to read and hope to sing its praises. Hopefully it's full of content I typically expect in a dragon fantasy, like epic war, an expansive world setup, dragon history, like all of the things. The Echo Wife. This is a sci-fi thriller coming from Tor, and it's following Evelyn and her husband who's having an affair with a genetically cloned replica made from Evelyn's own award-winning research. That sucks, man. After a confrontation between them, which ends with a body bleeding out on the floor, everyone involved has to try to keep the whole experiment a secret before everything becomes the horrible mess. I'll be honest, I actually really love this cover design. I think it fits this story really well. The reflection of like the wedding ring, it's very symbolic, and I like it. We have another debut here, and that is We Are the Fire, a YA fantasy, and it sounds really dark and captivating. Definitely a YA I'd be interested in picking up. Well, I wouldn't be mentioning here on this list if I didn't think it sounded like it was worth it. But actually sort of brings a different idea to the table, following two children who were stolen from their homes and countries and then turned into demons, fire-wielding demons. They both try to survive before the Emperor tears them apart. Lots of emperors on today's list. The Court of Silver Flames, which takes a little bit of a departure from what you expect from a mass book. I'm talking about the cover, but I'm going to stray away from that polarizing subject. This is the 5th book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. If I didn't mention it, I'm sure you guys would have screamed at me in the comments section. This one in particular is going to be following Nesta. The only thing that we can hope is this improves on what Sarah J. Maas does well, which is character relationships, environment, and progression for the most part. February 23rd, we have Glow. Wow, this book sounds super, super dope, but this is a new sci-fi coming from Angry Robot. My love for Angry Robot grows more and more each and every day because their books always sound so unique. This is following a man who battles an addiction to a devastating nanotech drug that steals identities and threatens the survival and succession of mankind as a galactic species. That is one hell of a synopsis. I truly hope the author can pull off such a resounding world-bending plot. I'm super excited for it. Final book I have here is one that I threw in last minute because I just recently discovered it and was like, wow. Maybe the most exciting book I have on this list, and no one's probably ever heard of it, but that is Wolf Eater. The author, Rob J. Hayes, puts out self-published fantasy releases every month, and I am so appreciative of that because I spotted this one, and what I can tell you is what I see of this book sounds amazing. It sounds gritty, pulpy, like fantasy with a lot of texture to it. First of all, it's following a fierce warrior feared by all called the Wolf Eater, and with him an 8-year-old girl who is blind, long held in his care, and I am here for it. Just reading the synopsis alone has me needing to pick up this book because of such an interesting duo, but they are hunted by all sorts of enemies in this brutal world. It's a self-published book, so of course it's going to be one of those hidden gems, but I need to read this. It has my name written all over it, and I will definitely be reading it in February. So for some honorable mentions here at the end, there's a few YA fantasy sequels coming out, including The Desolation of Devil's Acre, which continues the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series, All the Tides of Fate, the second book to All the Stars and Teeth, Everything That Burns, I think is the sequel to Enchantée, and Stormbreak, the third book in the Seafire series. And that is going to wrap it up for this month. Of course, there are so many I didn't mention, but what you can do for me is down below in the comments, tell me the ones that you are excited for. Does anything on this list sound interesting to you? Will you be reading them once they release, or have you already read them? Let me know down below. Subscribe if you haven't. I upload videos every single week. Follow me on Instagram at HollyHeartsBooks and on Twitter at HollyNiece. And until we meet again, happy reading.